Tim Guidroz with United Country Southern States Realty with episode 1 of the series we're calling the Land Pros. In this series, we're covering everything land, whether we're out in the field demonstrating or sitting behind the desk addressing the most frequently asked questions that we get from our buyers and sellers on a daily basis. In this first video, we hook up with our buddy Brent Barron, who's a registered forester and a fellow Realtree Land Pro, to do a prescribed burn on an 80-acre tract in Magnolia, Mississippi. We're going to burn 50 acres of it and go over step by step how to do it and why you want to do it and how often you may need to do it.
Hey guys, today we're working on a prescribed burn on 50 acres here in Pike County. And what I'm doing is I'm getting my burn torches ready and wanted to show you what mixing rate we use for putting in our torches and the kinds of torches I use. But I do a 50-50 to 60-40 diesel to gas, with diesel being the 60 if I put more of one or the other. But just to keep it where when you're putting the fuel out on the ground, starting on your burn, it doesn't get too hot or it's not the flame isn't catching to the tip. So types of torches we got are your standard drip torch, and when it's assembled, it looks like this. When you pour it, fuel comes out here, pours on the wick, and once you light it, you just walk, and fuel comes out, and you pour it on the edge of the fire lane. The other kind of torch I have here, this one mounts in my side-by-side here, and it's a gravity-fed wand torch, to where I've got a line coming out of the bottom of the tank, and I've got a cutoff valve here to where I can shoot fuel off the edge of the fire lane further if I need to. So this is the one I probably use more, just because if I have to go inside the timber stand that I'm burning and do a lot of hand lighting, I'll use this one. But if it's easy, good fuel on the edge of the fire lanes, we use the wand torch. So another thing, the reason why we do burns, prescribed burns, is we're trying to reduce the amount of fuel that's in the understory under predominantly a pine stand or a plantation. And the reason for that is if somebody else's fire gets loose and it comes on your property, if you have reduced fuel under there, you're less likely to lose any potential value of your timber or the timber altogether, because a fire that's out of hand can get hot enough it can kill your timber. So we're reducing the fuel composition. We're doing it for wildlife management and for timber management. Timber is going to benefit off of this because it has less competition underneath the stand, and it actually cleans everything up as far as all your undesirable species, yopon, privet, hardwood regen. You know, those kind of things are what it's going to potentially kill, and it might not do it on the first burn, but over time and multiple burning rotations, it can clean it up to where you're going to produce more natural vegetation and have better quality products for wildlife of all kinds, deer, turkeys, and small game. So that's the reason why we do it. So something else is, when you're doing prescribed burns for landowners or yourself, there's liability in this stuff. Fire is unpredictable sometimes. We use certain weather conditions, winds, humidities. There's all kinds of factors that go into this that we have to know, and to be a certified burn manager, you have to take tests to pass and saying that you know what you're doing as far as using those conditions to control a fire. So we have fire lanes put in around this block of timber, and some landowners say, well, I'll just burn my own, and that's fine. But that landowner needs to make sure that if they don't have insurance, to where if that fire does get out on the neighbors and his timber across a field that hasn't greened up for the spring, or a small cutover like this right here beside this stand, if that gets out and burns somebody's timber, house, barns, anything, that person's liable for it. So that's something that I myself as a consultant carry, And just me personally, I carry a $2 million aggregate liability policy. So that's just in case if something ever was to get out of hand, we have that in place to where somebody's not going to just lose their property. So just an important factor when considering doing a burn. So we may start right here and start lighting to have this back burn start on this side where it'll creep in, and then on the other side of the creek the same thing. We'll go to the corner, come up to the creek, and that way it'll all start backing off right here. You rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So lighting the edge, basically right down the edge of the fire lane, the wind blowing against it, it creeps out into the stand. So this is what you call a back burn, and the reason you do that, you allow it to get out there and burn slower instead of just lighting the head fire and it just come rushing through and basically be able to jump the fire lane. That's the idea. Whole time. And it goes on out there a ways. And as I get going and the pressure in that tank changes, I can throw that fuel out there a little further. The reason I went up this lane and lit it just because of this hardwood stuff. See, I lit that and it tied in at least over there. If we'd have left that alone, it probably would have creeped that way if we'd have got a little of a west wind. That's the other thing. See our wind? See, it's going up and it's kind of fading right a little.
Yeah.
That's what we want. South wind is the main thing. Just where it's going to carry the smoke that way. And the other thing, you know, you're supposed to have burn plans. You're supposed to have it all mapped out to where you're not affecting any county roads, especially no major highways or the interstate. But you know, something else is smoke dispersal. You can't have a burn day to where your smoke won't disperse to where it'll stay low to the ground, because if it gets over any county roads and you cause a wreck, you're liable. So that's other stuff you gotta keep a check on. But I'm gonna let this do its thing for a little bit.
So why are you not worried about, you know, the timber being set on fire?
Right, so like right here in front of us are these trees out beside us here. I'll let you pan over there in a second. The reason that pine trees can handle fire is because of the bark thickness, and that's something that's important when you're looking at pine timber as far as managing it. You know, you can't burn pine timber when it's too young, because what it'll do is if a fire gets too hot, number one, it'll stress the trees. But if the timber's too young and the bark thickness is too thin, it can potentially kill the trees. And when they're younger, if they're in a plantation, so in a planted setting, whether it's a cutover or a machine planted field, if the timber's too young, it's tighter together, so that's less room for air to get through there and let the fire breathe. So it's got to go somewhere. It could burn it all up. But this stand here, it has not been burned ever, to my knowledge, but they've thinned this place twice. So the pine trees that are in here have plenty of growing space, but what's happening here, as y'all see out in the stand, a lot of the open areas are filling in with privet, yopine, hardwood regen like this right here. I mean, all of that stuff's taken over, and what that's doing is pulling nutrients and water availability that the desirable trees, the pine trees that we want to improve, that they're removing all those resources from the pine trees. So what we're trying to do is take some pressure off of them and stress off the trees by doing what we're calling a top kill or a to the root kill on all this undesirable stuff. So that's the goal with fire, is, you know, kill as much as you can on the undesirable side, but it's not always going to do it on the first try. So
it's not just for hunting purposes,
to
clean everything up and
really
attract the wildlife.
Correct.
If you're just a timber investor and you've got a timber tract,
right,
you want to be doing this.
You want to be doing this because this is one of the cheapest tools that you can buy. $20 an acre is what I charge for burning, and I have a 50-acre minimum, which, you know, it's $1,000 minimum. But what else can you do to do intermediate, you know, timber stand improvement? Chemical application, you're talking about $75 to $100 an acre, as far as going in and spraying. You know, machine, you know, any kind of machine prep, mulchers, you know, going through with big drum choppers or anything like that. All of that stuff costs, you know, uppers of $100 an acre, and where we're at, we're talking about $20 an acre. So, and you're going to get more return. Get the fire going. You're going to get more return, as far as for wildlife value, more for aesthetics, and that's the other thing. Say you don't care about wildlife or timber value, the aesthetics of the timber stand, after all this is complete and after you do it 2 and 3 times, it's going to look like a park. But you've got to get it on the right rotation to where you can start cleaning it up by doing it as early as possible after you've opened the timber up by thinning. If you let it go for multiple years, this is what you'll end up with. So, and that goes back to, you know, removing potential fuels, that if a wildfire did get out in here, you're talking about with no fire lanes, if it was all a head fire coming through here with a strong wind, it'd kill this timber in a heartbeat. So we're doing good things, in my opinion.
Yep. If a prescribed burn is something you're looking to do on your property in Louisiana or Mississippi, Brent is definitely the guy to call. If you've got questions about that or anything else concerning land, call Brent or myself. Both of our contact information is at the bottom. We'd love to help you out.